Hello, and welcome to our next event in the ATA football series. So far, we brought you Champions League winners, Olympic legends, French superstars, and not to disappoint, but I'm not actually sure where we're possibly going to go from here, given the fact that today we're reuniting two of the world's best. One of, if not the most successful coach of all time, UNC Chapel Hill's Anson Dorrance, and quite literally the world's best player, Lucy Bronze. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Well, thank you for that intro. It was quick, but it was wonderfully complimentary. Lucy, tell me again how you discovered coming to our soccer camps back in the day. And how old were you? You certainly weren't 12, were you, when you came over to camp? Were you that young?
I think, yeah, the first camp that I came to, I was 12. I think my mum asked for special permission because I'm not sure the camps went to such a young age. But it's funny because, kind of going off topic a little bit, she has a picture from my first camp. And I was like, are you sure I'm 12 there? I look like fully grown. So it was probably why I had the exception. But yeah, that's going back to that. Yeah, in England at the time, I wasn't allowed to play with the boys anymore. And to be honest, quite frankly, my mum and dad didn't really know much about football in England. Didn't realise there was such rules that stopped me from playing. And didn't really know what else to do. So went to Google like we all do when we have any sort of problem, illness or anything. You Google it. She Googled it, and obviously America came up as the place to be for women's soccer. Googled where's the best place for it, and UNC was right there, top of the page. So yeah, just looked into it. My mum, being who she is, found out about the soccer camps, and we're like, right, next year we're going, and that was it. Off we went to soccer camp that following summer.
So Lucy, how many summers did you come to camp? I know it was at least 2 or 3. Was it 3? Was it 2? What was it?
I think I did 3 camps. I think I might have done one when I was 12. Obviously, I was quite young anyway. Came back to England and we kind of found girls' teams locally and got on with that. And then I think when I was around 15, 16, I came back again. Obviously, I was a bit bigger and stronger and faster and things. Yeah, and I think I might have done like back-to-back camps at this point. So I ended up going to 3 camps. I think my mum was just wanted to throw me into football and get rid of me for the summer. And that was the time when I brought some friends over as well. But yeah, it was great, especially because in England, like we still to this day don't have that same concept of like a soccer camp in that same way that you stay over and yeah, like it's just on the fields. You with Anson, like imagine that, like you're getting coached by one of the best coaches in the world, and you're at a soccer camp. Like that's crazy. Like just stuff like that wouldn't happen in England. Yeah.
Well, Lucy, I remember as well that by the time you came back for that 3rd camp, you were playing, and I was so impressed with your game. And I just casually asked you during the camp. I said, "Luce, are you interested in playing for England?" And you said, "Oh my gosh, that's my dream." And I said, well, then let's set this up. And you said, no. They never come to Sunderland to find players. In other words, I live in such a backwater. There's no way anyone's going to come up here looking at me. And I said, no, Lucy, I know some people that are going to basically watch you, and they're going to bring you in. And you couldn't believe it. And at the time, I think my friend Emma Hayes was playing actually coaching for the Arsenal. And I called her up. I said, Emma, you've got a kid in Sunderland that can really play. Why don't you send someone up there to look at her? Because I think at the time she was involved somehow with the national youth teams. And they sent someone up there, or they somehow discovered you and brought you in. And then, of course, the rest was history.
Well, it's funny because I tell people that story now about Emma Hayes and how easily I could have been an Arsenal player if things had been differently. I've gone a little bit differently. But yeah, I remember that story. And I actually got picked. I did then get picked for England before I actually came to North Carolina properly. But then equally, they didn't like that I was playing in America.
everyone was saying disparaging coming to the United States. Obviously, you guys invented the game, so there was no way that you could learn anything from another country when you guys were the inventors of the great football. And so basically, you came over here, and my favorite story, my favorite Lucy Braun story of all time, is you text me, and I think you're on an airplane and you're sitting 2 or 3 rows behind Mo. And Mo couldn't believe how good you had become just by spending 4 months with us. And you text me, oh, and by the way, Anson, Mo is reading your books. And you texted me that because you were sitting behind her on an airplane. And I loved it. And by the way, Mo and I are now good friends. And we have sent her another kid. One of our kids is in the U23 camp right now with Mo, a kid named Ruby Grant that we set, during our season off with Mo. Because obviously, as you know, Luce, I'm an Anglophile. I love everything English. I'm a huge fan of the English game. I watch nothing but, the EPL and the FA Women's Super League. We get reports all the time. I've got another Brit with me now that's playing named Emily Murphy.
Chelsea Cole, yeah.
There you go, exactly right. So we've got, this legacy. And I was telling the producers, all these trophies sitting behind me were won by Alessia Russo and Lotte Wubben-Moy. We've kept them all on my desk as sort of a tribute to my 2 Brits, but also Lois Joel, who plays for West Ham. So I'm very proud of my English kids and their legacy. And but my Mo Marley story was my absolute favorite, because first they didn't want you to come back and come to the United States. And then after they saw what had happened in 4 months, they're pulling out our books to read. And I thought that was just a fabulous story that by the way, Lucy, I tell all the time.
I kind of wanted to switch it over and ask Luce and sort of open it up and let you, Anson, ask all the questions you've ever wanted to ask Lucy Bronze. Here we go. And Luce, you're not allowed to be modest, although I know you are. I'm gonna kick off with the first question. What's it like to be the best player in the world?
I don't know. It's obviously nice. It's not something I particularly strive to have the trophy necessarily, but I've wanted to be the best player. I just enjoy beating other people, but not the accolades that come alongside it. I just enjoy competition, and I guess actually making it to the top and getting my hands on the trophy didn't really mean much. I just want to win games and like win my one-on-one duels whenever I come up against any other player. So as you can see, the trophy's actually locked away in my garage or something. I don't have them all out the back like Anson do. I don't got I don't want to say bad trophies, but just like really simple trophies are behind me just because the aesthetic looks good in the room rather than actually my best trophies. They're all locked away somewhere.
Well, it's so interesting that Lucy's talking about that climb. But the thing I loved about what she just shared is the secret, honestly. Everyone thinks, what's the secret to becoming extraordinary? And Lucy hit the nail on the head. It's about competitive fire. And there are all these different elements that we talk about when we're trying to take a player to her potential. We talk about self-discipline, competitive fire, self-belief, love of the ball, love of watching the game, love of playing the game, grit, coachability, and connection. But the ring that rules them all is what Lucy just addressed, which is competitive fire. And I love the answer to that question you asked her, which is, I just love competing. And I love beating people, and I love the duel, because it all comes down to the individual duel. Do you have the ability to beat people off the dribble and stop them? And that's the game. That's the game at right back as well. Are you going to be stopping that left-sided attacking player? Is she going through you, or are you stopping her? And then is she stopping you? Because obviously Lucy's making that right back position feel like it's an attacking position. I mean, every time she's in transition, she's on her bike, sprinting down that sideline, making sure that she's just creating havoc down that right side for her team. It's so much fun to watch her play. But the fact you addressed competition, Lucy, is everything. And that gets me back to another one of my favorite Lucy stories, which is when you jumped into our podcast and you talked about at UNC, so much of what we do is about the 1v1. And she was talking about all of a sudden she's this young kid and she's matched up with Tobin Heath
yeah.
in a 1v1. And Lucy was too modest on the podcast. She made it seem like Tobin beat her like a drum, which is impossible. No one ever beats Lucy like a drum, even when she's young and the other player's older. But she talked about that duel. That's the duel we want our elite players to feel comfortable in. And so that was Lucy's introduction to, you know, one of the greatest one-on-one artists in the American game, who, of course, like Lucy, is still playing at the top of her game. And it comes down to that duel. Can you beat them off the dribble? Can you stop them? And then, of course, you throw them in together and you watch them battle each other. And Lucy, I so much enjoyed listening to you talk about that story. So share some of it with everyone, and don't be modest, because I know you gave her a run. I don't remember the score, but it wasn't whatever you said on the podcast.
Not like 8-1 or something.
No, yeah, it was not 8-1.
I mean, I don't want to throw my excuses in early, but I think I must have been 17 at the time. And Tobin she must have been a senior. I think she just got a call up into the US national team that year, actually. And we did 1v1 drills and training, and I got put up against Tobin. But normally we have it's just to a ball. And for some reason, Anson decided that mine and Tobin's one was going to be to goals. So full-size goals with goalkeepers in against the best 1v1 player on the team, which was Tobin, the ball skill and everything. Everything you see of Tobin now, she was exactly that same player 10 years ago. So yeah, that was probably my most difficult duel I've ever faced in my career.
Well, let me share this.
Since then, it's got a little bit easier because now I've grown and I've gotten better. And I've played against Megan Rapinoe and Marta and the kids in England and Tobin again. But that, I think, was probably the hardest 1v1 duel that I've ever faced. It still gives me nightmares now. But no, I held my own a little bit.
You did. You did.
We started off drawing, and I think my attacking skill let me down a little bit, which I've worked on since then.
Yes, you
so
have.
Maybe didn't score as many goals where she had all the flair. She was born with that flair, whereas I was born with the brute and the athleticism. But yeah, it was. I still remember it to this day, and I think it is probably one of the key moments in my career where I've actually had to face one of the best players in the world at such an early age. Which again was funny because in England they were like, "Oh, you don't want to go to America, you're not playing with who the players that you're going to be playing with." And obviously at the time, people in England hadn't heard of Tobin Heath, hadn't heard of Megan Klingenberg, Ashlyn Harris. The list just went on and on. And I was playing with these girls when I was 17 years old, which now looking back, everyone's like, "Oh my God, you played with 10 players who have won the World Cup." And I'm like, yeah, I told you this 10 years ago, but you didn't listen. But yeah, Tobin was definitely one of the stars of that team, and it was really great playing with her at the time, but going up against her in training wasn't always the easiest.
I do think is interesting. Luce, you played in the US, France, obviously as well, now back in the UK. Anson, you've coached players from all different countries and obviously the US women's national team as well. Are there different coaching styles that you have seen, Lucy, from different countries? And then Anson, for you, do you have to coach those players and cultures any differently?
Right, well, I'd say American
style
and French style are the either ends of the spectrum. And English style kind of flickers between the two, depending on the club style or the team or the manager's or the coach's style. The American style, I mean, I always say to people, I went to UNC at the most pivotal time in my career because for me, I was very competitive. I always want to win, and I don't hide away from the fact that I want to win, which in England is not always promoted as much, whereas in America that's the way to be. And I think being at 17 and going to UNC and everybody was like that, and Anson was like that. It was that's the right way to be. That kind of set me on my way to be okay, I'm doing something right because look at the players who have been successful through UNC. Whereas in France, it's not that they're not competitive. they're like, Lucy, we don't need to run. We don't- No, with the ball, just with the ball, like like they are competitive in a different way. Like it just has to turn on and off. Whereas in America, it's like a constant. Like you winning at everything. You 100, not 100 miles an hour, but you murder ball. You go in for it. It's never like you get your breather when it's done. That's it. Whereas in France, they're like, oh, t'inquiète, Lucy, which is like calm down. So I got that a lot in France. T'inquiète.
I bet Anson never told you to calm down.
No, like I've been told to calm down in England a few times as well. But then that's what I mean. In England, sometimes it's this, and then sometimes we'll go for it, and sometimes it's no, calm down. Whereas in France, it's like, let's just relax and we'll take it easy. And I was like, no, let's go. So yeah, I've been all around the world with just having been to France and America.
What do you like the best?
As I got older, the French way of life was a lot easier on the knees. I'm not gonna lie, but that mindset was always like an American life kind of mindset. Yeah. So as much as it's nice to take it easy, sometimes I just got that burning desire to just run through brick walls all the time. So I think longevity-wise, France, but actually who I am to a core is America all over.
In fact, speaking of that, how are all the injuries, Luce? How are you holding up?
Yeah, good. I had surgery like 9 weeks ago. A good old clear out of the knee, as you might know quite well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, shouldn't be a couple of weeks and then I should be back. And then I think there's potentially England games and getting back in the England squad and stuff. Don't want these kids taking my spot yet, do I?
Yeah. Well, Lucy, I've missed watching you play. I mean, I turn on the Man City games, and then I forget that you're injured. But holy cow, do all of us here, by the way, absolutely love watching you play. And I'll tell you, there's nothing better for us than the FA Women's Super League and what ATA's doing. Oh my gosh, we get to have access to the games, and we love it. And then there's a conversation, on Mondays about who played well and what the goals look like. And it's just, you guys are bringing women's football to the world in such a positive way. It's just, it's extraordinary.
I want to talk about you, Anson, because you keep deflecting over to Lucy as well, which is probably one of the reasons why you're such a good coach. But now, Luce, come on, help me out here. I mean, Anson, you are one of the most decorated coaches in the game. I literally had to write this down because you've won 21 of the 31 NCAA Women's Soccer Championships. Am I right? 21?
Actually, I don't keep score. I'm like Lucy.
Lucy's barely 21 years old, and you've already won 21 soccer championships, 22 ACC tournament championships, 23 ACC regular season championships. You had a 101 game unbeaten streak. You've coached over 13 different women to a total of 20 National Player of the Year. But literally, it's too long to read. So I just want to kick off, and then Luce jump in here with anything you want to ask him. But what is it like to be at the top of the game for so long? Like, how do you keep that motivation?
Well, the motivation is very simple. I'm motivated by Schadenfreude, which is a wonderful German word. Schaden is the German word for damage. Freude is the German word for joy. And so I love it when my enemies are suffering. So for me, what wakes me up in the morning is I can't wait to continue to torture all the people that hate me with a passion in the game. So that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. So I have no issue with motivation, thanks to that wonderful German word that perfectly describes me. So that's not an issue. But honestly, what also drives me is player development. I love nothing more than watching kids get better and better and better. And so, yeah, the championships are great. Don't get me wrong. But what I love is, watching kids like Lucy just continue to improve and continue to, push the edge of the envelope in the women's game. And so for me, that is my joy. So watching kids, make national youth teams, make national full teams, make Olympic rosters. I was so proud of Lotte making the Great Britain roster. I mean, that's one of my kids, and I'm just so excited now that Alessia Russo's back to health. I'm hoping that England embraces her. And so for me, it's watching these kids continue to improve. So player development for me is everything. And I'm sitting across right now from one of my colleagues, Damon Nahas, and our desks face each other in the office. And all we talk about all day is helping these kids get better. And for us, that's the game at the highest level, taking our kids from one level to the next. And Lucy's right about Tobin. That year, Tobin's senior year, she was playing so well, the U.S. full team brought her in. And there's no greater satisfaction I get, even more so than the national championship, than one of my kids, while they're an undergraduate, like Alessia Russo, like Lotta, while they're young enough to basically be still playing for me, they got a U.S. Or England or Canadian or, Dutch. Because, by the way, Serena Wegman played for me. So
yeah, exactly.
any of these countries, when they get a full team call up while they're playing for me, I mean, we're popping, champagne corks. We are so proud of our kids, and they know it because we brag about them all the time, and they know we do. And that's what motivates me like absolutely nothing else.
So cool.
Yeah, I've got this bugbear at the minute, not at the minute, in general. Like a lot of people use the women's game as like a stepping stone into the men's game. I guess especially in Europe, because European men's football is, like, I suppose for some people, the pinnacle. But I'm sure you must have been asked to coach boys, but you've never ever kind of wavered away from coaching girls. And I feel like there's something that I don't know, must have a better connection or see something different in girls than boys. And I've always wondered why maybe I've never thought about going with boys teams, or you just prefer, or there's something different that you see in it.
Yeah, well, let me share that, Lucy. First of all, thank you for that question. Yes, when the MLS started up, I got several offers from the pro teams on the men's side in the United States to coach, but I was never even interested in discussions. I had no issue picking the women, and the reason I picked them is because they're wonderfully coachable. And I've never wavered on that. They are just wonderfully coachable. Everything you ask them to do, they're going to at least try. And with the men, you're fighting these enormous egos. They all think they're God's gift to the game. 95% of the great players suffer from hubris. They always think they're better than they are. I mean, coaching them is just like, I love this Pep interview. They were interviewing Pep one day, and everyone was lauding him for his consistent success and the appearance that, all of his players love playing for him. And he basically let slip, and I'm sure it was just a slip. He says, well, no, ask the players that aren't playing, and they'll tell you what they think of me. And, of course, that's the case in the men's game. If you're getting minutes, the coach is loved. If you're not getting minutes, the coach is hated. I mean, it's just a battle. And the women's game is not like that. They will listen to you. They are coachable. They are hardworking. They, send you Christmas cards and birthday cards. I mean, even the fact that Lucy is on this telecast with me is indicative of the fact that, we're still connected. And that's not common in the men's game. And so anyway, for me, it was an easy and clear choice. And I've never regretted it because I watch the arc of their lives. I go to their weddings. I celebrate all of their successes, and not just their football successes. I celebrate all of their successes. And I've absolutely loved this because, as you know, and Lucy knows, the quality of your life is all based on the quality of your relationships. And the thing that women understand more so than men is their relationships, and that it's critical to make sure that these are addressed. And that's what gives you a rich life, or the quality of the people you know and love, and basically the character of the way you conduct yourself and the people you pick to be around you. So for me, this was an easy and clear choice.
And you kind of already mentioned it, but you've done so much. What do you hope to leave as your legacy? Like, do you need to do anything more? Are you going to run for president, or
Actually, coach in England?
No.
Yeah,
I mean, as Lucy knows, there's a lot more to do. And here's the next stage where I am now. We're trying to figure out a way to sell out our stadium because, all of our women are talking about equal pay. Everyone has a different route into equal pay. Sort of the American route into equal pay is take money from the men and pay us equally. That's not going to be my route into equal pay. My route into equal pay is to sell out my stadium and then pay them with the gate receipts. And obviously we don't pay our players, but you understand what I'm trying to share. So we are very big on marketing our stadium. We have to figure out a way to market the women's game. So we play in front of huge crowds. This is where the FA Women's Super League is so extraordinary because of the exposure that's happening right now. And I make sure my girls are watching the FA Women's Super League because I let them know that, if you're out there and you're whining about equal pay and you're not driving 25 minutes over here to watch the Courage play, our professional team, I'm going to call you a hypocrite. In other words, you've got to basically walk your talk. And so, yes, if you want equal pay, you better be at every possible professional game you can to support these women that are working hard to promote our game. So, yes, there's still a lot left for me to do. And the final step for me before I end up on the golf course and the pickleball courts is selling out our stadium. So that's the final piece. We've got to sell it out because then I want the women to get paid like the men. But the only way that'll happen is if we sell out stadiums and get the viewership.
Maybe you should invite the Blue Devils over. You might get more fans. I don't know. It's just a suggestion.
No, exactly right. I mean, look at that game. We had just under 6,000 people here in a stadium that seats basically 4.5. So yes. And we're trying to develop relationships with the schools that are attractive to our fan base. And we want to prove that you can sell women's athletics. Because, by the way, lest we forget, in 1999, in front of 90,000 people in the Rose Bowl, the women here won their second world championship. So 90,000 people paying top dollar to watch women play football. So that's my final piece.
Absolutely. I was there. It was one of the best games I've ever seen. It was one of the hottest games I've ever been at as well. Literally, I couldn't tell you how hot it was in the Rose Bowl, but you're right. It was it was one of the reasons why I wanted to play. Right. Now I'm going to do really, really quick fire. I want you guys to answer these literally off the top of your head in 3 words maximum. This is for our fans. They wanted to know. Anson, top quality, mental or physical, in a player.
He's struggling for one word.
Agility.
Okay, agility. Luce, top quality, mental or physical, in a coach.
Oh, in a coach.
Do you want to say in a player first?
Challenge. Being able to be challenged and challenge others.
Is that from a coach or a player?
From a coach.
From a coach. Nice.
Yeah,
I like that.
Both ways.
Yeah. So many people would shy away from that, really, wouldn't they, actually?
I think challenge is the way that you improve and develop both as a coach and as a player.
Yeah. Okay, for you guys personally, what's the most important trait for you to remain the best in the world? Anson, you go first. Almost got you tongue-tied? What?
I'm trying to get this into one word.
I'll give you 3. I'll give you 3 words.
Okay. Constantly learning.
Nice.
Mine. Constantly competing.
Nice. Very nice. Right. I mean, literally, I think we could talk for days, but we are going to have to wrap it up. And I just want to thank you guys both so much for your time, your openness, all your stories, and also to all of our fans here at Ata Football. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating and getting involved in everything we're doing. We look forward to seeing you guys very soon for our next event. This is me signing off. Bye for now. Thank you guys, Anson and Luce. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.